The world is run by incentives, not intelligence. Have you ever heard the phrase, why are people so stupid? Why is everybody so dumb? People say this all the time. They get mad when they're out in public. God, people drive me crazy. Everybody's so stupid. What if that wasn't the case at all? What if it really had nothing to do with whether people were intelligent or stupid? What if the truth of the matter is that it really doesn't matter at all what somebody's intellectual capacity is, because everybody is really just doing whatever they'll be incentivized to do? What if everyone's true motive is that human nature desire to get something or gain something, and everybody is really just following the incentive? People's behavior just follows rewards, not reasoning. Nobody's sitting around thinking of the reasonable thing to do. They're all thinking of what can I do to get rewards, whether it be success or fame or finance, money, becoming rich, whatever it is they want, women or men, boyfriends, they want rewards. So they will do whatever they feel they have to do to be incentivized. When I was younger, I used to believe that the world was run by all these old people with beards, right? And I just thought, well, these people must be smart. That's why they became world leaders, and that's why they became, super successful business people that run and control all of the resources and everything else, the true elite powers that be. But the truth of the matter is that intelligence isn't really what got them there. The smartest people don't run the world. Systems run the world. And the systems that are designed to incentivize the best are the systems that last the longest and prevail the longest over time. Not individuals. Which is one of the reasons why I have such an issue with conspiracy theory. Because conspiracy theories, what people are missing is that they often want to blame individuals or a cabal of individuals. And there's this suggestion that this cabal of individuals all agree on a uniformity, a complete idea of how everything should be, and they're all planning and conspiring together to make this desired outcome. But that's not really true. The real conspiracy is the systems. The systems that have incentivized the best are really what has been running everything for a very long time. Intelligence explains what could work. Intelligence are people that are going, it would really be better for society if we did X, Y, and Z. Intelligence does that. But incentives explain what will happen. So if you want to predict the future, all you have to do is just make the assumption that people are going to do what incentivizes them every time. Whatever most incentivizes them. That's where the term opportunity cost comes from. So if a person can be incentivized to do one action, but could be more incentivized to do the other action, and there's no other action that will incentivize them more than that particular action, then that's the action they're going to take. Everybody. Doesn't matter whether you're a politician, whether you're a business owner, whether you're an average person who gets up, goes to work. Does not matter who you are, you're going to chase rewards. That's how the world works. And the system that incentivizes those rewards the best is the system that is going to create the structure that we all live in over the long term. And that's the bottom line. The systems don't fail because people are stupid. Systems will fail because incentives reward wrong behavior. A prime example of that is social media. One of the biggest things that happen, or the one of the biggest things that becomes so problematic with social media, is that it's created radical polarization, worse than probably any invention in history. And the reason why that is because people who make visual content and media content on social media are not rewarded unless they make negative content, unless they make content that is clickbait, unless they make content that will drive engagement, get people angry, force comments, people to argue. And so also to conspiracy theorize. Because if they do that, then there's a lot of people that are going to engage with the content from paranoia, from fear, and there's a financial incentive to do that. So the truth doesn't really win people over. Accuracy isn't really rewarded consistently. Accuracy is kind of punished. The truth is boring, and, it ends up being like people respond, or people's behavior tends to go towards what pays rather than what's true. And that's just the bottom line. I mean, it ends up becoming a situation where being right without incentive changes nothing. So, like, a good example is you could be right and be telling the truth all the time, like I feel like I'm doing right now. I don't have a massive platform right now, currently. Hopefully that'll change in the long term. That is the goal. But it's kind of like if a tree falls in the middle of the woods, does it make a sound? You could be true, but if you don't have a platform because you haven't told enough lies, or you haven't engaged in enough propaganda, or you haven't engaged in enough paranoia, or you haven't engaged in enough rage bait or clickbait, then you can be true all you want, but it's not going to make a difference. Being truthful is not going to make a difference. A lot of people, they want to punish or get upset that a lot of these people are doing this, but no judgments here. Everyone is going to do what incentivizes them the most, including the people that are watching the content, not just the people that are creating it. However, when those wrong behaviors get rewarded and rewarded and rewarded, over time, they deteriorate the system. And then that system that once incentivizes the best will no longer be a system that incentivizes the best, and then the system itself will crumble. That's just the nature of things. People are trying to survive. Everyone is trying to survive. And so doing what incentivizes, which is what's going to help people survive, is always going to override correctness or morality or truth. It's always going to, because people have to survive. If an employee is sitting in a boardroom meeting and he points out an analytical metric that is really, really true, that paints an ugly picture of success for the business, but then there's another guy in the boardroom that is saying, no, ignore that, we're going to be just fine, and continues to ride the more enjoyable narrative in the room, who's going to still have their job? It's definitely going to be the guy that's selling the narrative of what people want to hear more than the guy that's providing a true metric that people don't want to hear. Because that's the uncomfortable truth. And that happens because, like, bad outcomes come from rational behavior. So hear me out. If people are rational and everybody's doing things logically, or even not everybody, just think of an individual who's trying to do things rational, reason, and wants to do things the right way or whatever. They're acting logically within a system. They're already within a system. And it's a system predicated, again, on what incentivizes the best. So they're already in this system. But here's the thing. Structure matters more than intent. So the importance of that system remaining is more important than doing the rational thing. Keeping the system going. And this is why, if you're somebody who's intelligent but you don't have any leverage, you don't have any power, you don't have a lot of money, you're not in any position of power or control, you don't have a large platform, or you're not famous or whatever, then your ideas are just decorations. They make the system look pretty, I guess, but ideas don't move the system. Incentives do. And so this is the reason why so many intelligent people lack positions of power. Because their ideas, though beautiful and decorative and true, they don't move the system. And that's the reason why people in positions of authority, who, by the way, inherited that authority, or I wouldn't say inherited, achieved that authority, they acquired that authority by playing the rules of the system, which is to chase incentives. That's how they wound up in the authoritative positions they're in. And so, therefore, they decide which ideas survive. And in their minds, even if your idea is morally the right thing to do, even if it's correct and even if it's true, if it's going to deteriorate the system or keep the system that incentivizes the best from incentivizing, then their instinctive reaction is to try to do everything they can to protect the system with which gave them the authority to begin with, rather than allow those good ideas to break through. Oh, are you hearing me? So a good example is, like, let's just say hypothetically you have a junior analyst and he spots a flaw early, but he doesn't have any authority. And there's also no incentive alignment for him to go and tell anybody. He's not. How many times have you heard people say, well, I know that this is going to happen. Well, maybe you should go warn the bosses. Pfft, they don't pay me enough. For what? No one's going to listen to him anyways. That's why the warning goes nowhere. And then the failure that he could have warned them about, it isn't until that failure happens when all of a sudden people are paying attention. Now everybody's concerned. Now that the failure is happening. And this has been true all throughout history, but even when you look at things, from the perspective of, like, our country, or like space. Like, I know that there's been scientific people who've come out and made warnings about asteroids that could be hitting us in a few years, or, climate change, things that could hurt the world or whatever. But nobody cares. Nobody listens to them. Because if continuing to do something that is going to make you wealthy or incentivize you to have money and power, if there's a path that's going to give you more money and power, that is going to be the path people are going to take, rather than the path that's going to be less harmful to the environment, for instance. And that's because telling people to do something that's going to protect the environment doesn't currently reward as good as doing things that may not protect the environment. And it won't be until the rewards of protecting the environment exceed the rewards of not protecting the environment that people will do the right thing. Because until the right thing incentivizes the best, then that will not become the system that we will follow. And this is the breakdown of our society today. This is or I would say our societies all throughout history, all throughout human history. This is just the way things are. And morality and telling people, well, you got to do this, it's the morally right thing to do, they're going to always lose to incentives. Ethics don't scale without somebody enforcing it. And that's one of the biggest things, is that whenever you start talking about having some hierarchy of people that are enforcing behavior, nobody's okay with it. Even if that hierarchy that's enforcing behavior, even if it's for a good reason, nobody cares. Nobody is okay with anyone enforcing behavior, even if it is morally correct or ethically correct. Because even moral and ethics become gray areas. That's debatable. I mean, there was a time you could probably argue that things that were morally and ethically correct were objective. But we now have moved into an area where things are subjective. So even if you say, well, this is morally wrong, you'll have somebody else going, is it? Is it? Well, what about you trying to control my behavior? Is that not morally wrong? And then you wind up in a conundrum. So good intentions, they just fade under pressure. That's all that happens. The incentives quietly override people's values. And outcomes, when you look at outcomes and where we've arrived at, all they're doing is revealing people's real priorities. So people can talk till they're blue in the face about their values and about, their morals and all this. But the truth of the matter is they are going to do whatever incentivizes them the best. In the end, everybody is. And you can't be judgmental of other people doing it because you're doing it too. There is nobody that can say with any ounce of honesty that they're not doing that. So if change is what you're looking for, then it only happens when the incentives shift. Awareness of it does not cause reform. Pressure does. And where does that pressure come from? It comes from the incentives, the system rewarding you better than the previous system. That's it. You have to create a new system that rewards people better than the previous system because they don't self-correct out of conscience. Nobody's going to go, hey, I realized I've been doing all this stuff that I shouldn't have been doing, but that's made me rich and wealthy and powerful. And I'm realizing now I'm having this conscious thought that I should stop doing these things. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You have to create systems that will reward the individual more than the currently flawed system. Industries rarely change because of criticism. They change after fines, regulatory losses, loss of talent, profit disruption from doing the wrong thing. That's how they change. So you could say out loud, I'm against this business because they do this. Then stop supporting that business. Stop giving them your money. And when you do that, You know, corporations all the time, they publicly, with use of PR and advertisement commercials and so on, they're always going to tell you that they care about the world and that they care about values and morals and ethics. But then they'll turn around and fire somebody with the quickness if that person enacted those morals and values and ethics over what was profitable. That's just the truth. So when you punish those profits, when you cause them to lose talent in the workplace because people stop wanting to work for companies that are doing things the wrong way, when you regulate those companies and you fine those companies for doing things wrong so much money that it starts to cut deeply into profit, that's when systems change. That's when it becomes, oh man, we really better do the right thing because we're losing money doing the wrong thing. That's how you change flawed systems. If behavior follows incentives, then we really need to stop blaming intelligence. We need to stop looking around at the world going, wow, we've really gotten dumb. We haven't. We have people that are some of the most brilliant minds in the world, and we have people that have not so great minds. But at the end of the day, that is neither here nor there when it comes to why our world is the way it is. It's the way it is because we have yet to figure out how to create systems that will incentivize people better than the current systems that may be flawed, incorrect, harmful, immoral, unethical. We need to create systems that can be all those things and reward people more than these current systems. Anyway, my name is Tom Kane. This was another episode of Executives Playbook. Today is New Year's Eve. So happy New Year's to everybody. I hope you enjoy my show. Please, if you haven't, like the video. Likes help and they go far. Hit the little bell, subscribe to the channel so you know when I release a video. I'm doing an episode every day, every single day, without missing a day. So there'll be plenty of content. So I hope you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, be notified when I create content, and leave a little comment. Let me know how you're thinking. Let me know what thoughts and ideas you have. But yeah, thank you for your time. I know there's a lot of content out in the world and a lot of places that you could be spending your time. And so every minute you give me watching my videos is a blessing, and I appreciate it, and I'm very grateful. Anyways, you guys have a wonderful New Year's Eve, and hopefully you embark on a journey in 2026, and you get to keep all your New Year's resolutions intact. All right? All right. Thanks, guys.